No, I don't think that I could agree at all that Sozo is just another juice product. Um, there are many juice products on the market today, and it seems like every day there are more of them. Some of them are touting tropical fruits, others are touting teas. But the truth is that Sozo is a magical combination of fruit, vegetable, powders and extracts suspended in healthy juices with one really important qualifying factor, and that's that we are generating science to support that it actually does something. I have not seen documentation out there from other products that has this kind of science behind it.
You know, I hear that comment a lot. People that are not familiar with our product, their first reaction, well, you know, this is just another juice. Well, I would argue that it's a functional beverage with science. When you take a hard look and start peeling back the layers as it relates to our formulation, you're going to see not only do we have the CoffeeBerry, the cornerstone, which no one else has out there in our industry, but in addition to that, we've got all these other components in our 7,500 milligram, our proprietary blend.
That's why we're doing all this work. And combining this careful blend of fruit antioxidants, polyphenols, sulforaphanes, glucosinolates, isothiocyanates, in just this careful balance, it's definitely not just a juice product. We're not only stimulating your exogenous antioxidant system, meaning antioxidants that you bring in from the outside in your diet, but these isothiocyanates, glucosinolates, sulforaphane in the vegetable portion stimulate your internal antioxidant system. Plus, we have some patented proprietary ingredients in there that no other juice blend would have out there. We have CoffeeBerry, which is the flagship. We have Fruit XB, calcium fructoborate, which is a mimetic of a naturally occurring plant mineral that's essential for the maintenance of healthy joints and bones. These compounds just do not exist in any other juice out there. We know because we own them and we license them, and we have not licensed them for that purpose. So this combination is very unique. We took the best of our fruit and vegetable powders and extracts, and the Sozo folks worked to blend those in with other nutritious juices into an easy to ingest, flavorful format. And then we proceeded to do the science to not only have it look good on paper, but to have it actually be quantifiable, something we can deliver and show, look, we did the science, we're measuring it, here it is. So there's a term in biology called bioavailability. And it's really important to get to that step. You can put something in a pill and you can take it, but does it really do anything to you? You can drink a glass of orange juice, but does it really do anything? You can swallow a vitamin, but does it really do anything? I mean, if you think about it, most of us walk around through our lives and we take a vitamin every day just in case, because there aren't too many studies that tell us, well, if you take this 1 hour later, your such and such level will change. We wanted to look at Sozo in a way that could give us a vision of where to go with our research. So we decided to do this acute clinical case discovery study. It's not a long 90-day study that shows some structural change in the human body. The purpose of this study was simply to have people not eat from midnight till the time they came to the lab in the morning, so they would come in a fasted condition. Their metabolism had settled down. We would draw some blood, and then we would give them a dose of Sozo, a 3-ounce dose. Or we would give them comparable dose of a placebo.
You know, once we had completed the formulation of this product, we knew, based on experience with Futureceuticals and the raw materials that we were using, especially the CoffeeBerry, that we were going to have an extremely high ORAC on this finished goods product. In other words, our antioxidants were going to be off the charts. We knew that. But at the same time, there's a lot of nutritional products in the marketplace that have a good ORAC. But the question is, once you open that product up and you consume that product, does it survive the gut? Do those nutrients survive the gut, get into the bloodstream? In other words, is it bioavailable entering in the bloodstream?
And it's interesting because neither the people who were ingesting nor the people who were administering knew whether they were participating in the Sozo leg or in the placebo leg. That's called a double blind. So it's double-blind, placebo-controlled. As soon as they ingested the material, then every half hour for 4 hours was another blood draw. And so then our biology team later could prepare the serum from both groups, all the sera, and run a series of analyses to see which of dozens of blood markers were being affected. And then it took some months because it literally generated some thousands of samples. If you take all these people over the course of every half hour, and then you're running all these tests for all these different blood markers, and you run it in triplicate in order to have a high degree of accuracy, it runs into a lot of testing. So we did exhausting testing on this. And we're pleased to say that we got some pretty exciting results. We're very pleased that in 5 biomarkers, we saw a statistically significant change, and it was statistically significant over the placebo. For an initial study, that was very impressive to us. Okay, so let's talk about these markers a little bit. I want everybody to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and plan on concentrating really hard for the next 5 minutes. I want you to roll with me, because if you do, it'll be worth it. You need to understand this. This is your study. So we're going to be talking about what these markers mean and why they're important to our bodies. Oxidation is an interesting thing. It's an ongoing reaction everywhere in our bodies. Every minute of every day, our bodies are oxidizing something. Now, what is oxidizing? Oxidizing basically is burning. If you strike a match like that and the match lights, the friction causes the sulfur on the match to ignite, and it takes the oxygen, and it's a fast chemical reaction. It burns. If you have an old fishing reel and you let it sit around, it will eventually begin to rust. Well, what's happening is the metal is attracting the oxygen from the air. A chemical reaction happens, and it burns. It's basically burning. It's rusting. Our bodies rust in many different ways. They burn in many different ways. Isoprostanes are the product, basically, of the rusting of the fatty acids in our bodies. Now, the bad thing about isoprostanes is if they build up, they promote our low-density lipoproteins, meaning our LDL cholesterol, the stuff that your doctor tells you is bad. Your LDL cholesterol's too high. Go home and take this. Don't eat that. Get more exercise. Well, LDL cholesterol in and of itself isn't really all that bad. It's only bad when it oxidizes, when it rusts. Isoprostanes can rust your LDL cholesterol. So we looked at isoprostanes. The Sozo group in the study took their dose of Sozo 1 hour later. On an average in that group, isoprostanes were reduced by 40%. After 4 hours, they were still down. In fact, the Sozo group was down on an average of 42% over 4 hours. And interestingly, the control group, the placebo, had an opposite effect. Isoprostanes were largely unaffected by the placebo, and in fact, over the course of the 4 hours, they went up a little bit. So our next marker is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the regulators for the contraction and dilation of our capillaries. It's known as a vasodilator, meaning it relaxes smooth muscle, and it relaxes the endothelium it's the lining of the arteries and veins to make them just relax. And when the circulatory system relaxes, it makes more room for the blood to flow through, and consequently blood pressure goes down. So NO is a regulator of blood pressure. So this is it's an important marker to the physiognomy. The Sozo group in the study showed an increase of between 7 and 8% after about 60 minutes, which was very good. And interestingly, the placebo group showed a significant decrease after 60 minutes. And I remembered looking at the data, and this one in particular was very interesting because the Sozo group of people, for whatever reason, this was a random study. We didn't pre-screen the folks coming in to see if they had high or low nitric oxide levels. We just took a group of people and tested them, established a baseline. It just so happened that the Sozo group, as an average, their baseline nitric oxide was very low. Well, much lower than the placebo group. Placebo group, their baseline was very high for nitric oxide. Sozo flexed its muscle and raised the nitric oxide by 7 to 8%, but it looks like the placebo slacked because it started out with a winning combination of high nitric oxide and it slipped. It went down. So this was a really nice experiment because it showed that for people with low nitric oxide levels, Sozo can really provide a benefit. Another exciting marker that we looked at in the study was C-reactive proteins, commonly called CRP. Many people who go to the doctor to have their heart checked out would know CRP. Physicians and cardiologists routinely look at CRP levels because it is an indicator of heart disease. CRP is an inflammatory marker, and while most of us know it as a heart inflammation marker, it's actually, from a global standpoint, more important because it can show a measure of inflammation throughout the body. It's a large inflammatory marker. It's a broad-based. So people with high CRP levels, while certainly they would be at risk for heart disease, they may have other afflictions. They might have arthritic conditions. They might have other inflammation-associated diseases or conditions. It's not strictly limited to the heart. So we were really pleased to see that the Sozo group in the study pulled down about 4.5% at the 60-minute mark, which was just a beautiful reduction. There may be drugs out there that are not as effective. I mean, this is frontier ground that we're covering, people, so you have to keep in mind that these are new discoveries that are being reported in science. The placebo group, on the other hand, it looks like it stimulated the CRP, which means ostensibly could have turned up the inflammatory marker by about 2.5%. So you've got a spread of about 7% there between the placebo and the Sozo group. The next marker that we looked at was this advanced oxidized protein products, commonly called AOPP to biologists, even though the rest of us have never heard of it before. These advanced oxidized protein products are the result of lipid peroxidation in the blood. Now, our lipids, basically, if you translate lipids into normal English,